worked at a factory. Farm this name just thundered. After the disaster and national mourning, before what happened last November, it was a small and known pharmaceutical. The company officially produced their preparations for agricultural, animals, anxiolytics and other psychotropic drugs, substances. I'm not a doctor, not a chemist, but I'm just an electrician, so I have no idea what should mix with what to get this effect. In that day, what happened at the factory was real. Hell, I have a suspicion that the story, with medications for animals only, we had cover at our enterprise, laboratories where entry is strictly prohibited, and for trivial maintenance of me, they were allowed in with disposable tickets. I worked for others, enterprises, and have never seen anything like this level of secrecy, whatever it is. All this to give a sedative. No cows and horses. I believe real people worked at the factory, scientists who could study development of, say, army combat. Warriors probably dream of stimulants, obtain substances for your use, which force the body to work maximum possibilities and maintain this ability even when receiving serious injuries. Isn't this what I saw last shift at the factory? My name is Anton Timofeev. This is mine honest story as I remember it, although they tried hard to convince me that everything was wrong. Our team of electricians was in duty room. I am Sasha, Maxim, and our boss Artyom whiled away the time by drinking tea, and suddenly the siren signal light began to wail. The guys and I flickered with red light, fell silent, and our Artyom immediately said that chemical alarm. Sasha said falsely again. He was overweight, and for him to dress in defense, it was too big. Morocco. I got up and went to lockers are better to play it safe. I have instructions. Artyom reminded in his tone that he's the boss. Quickly in suits while we put on protective masks with respirators, overalls and gloves in. A white smoke leaked to our duty room. He gushed from under the threshold and spread everywhere. Now everyone understands that this is not false alarm. We managed to close our eyes in time. No one had time to inhale the nose, mouth and skin. This chemical crap. My guys looked the same and different. At the same time, everyone is wearing yellow overalls and black masks, but Artyom is short and broad-shouldered, Maxim is tall and thin, and Sasha, pot-bellied and similar to Smoke Lemon. Artyom pressed the radio button, tried to shout through the siren. Finally, he understood what he was being told and told us, guys, there is an accident, an explosion. Tanks and Maxim shouted what to do. Evacuate, of course. Let's, like in a training exercise. I haven't had time to get scared yet. Yes, it was an extreme situation, but it seemed that there is enough for everything. Instructions. We opened the door to the duty room. The corridor was all in smoke. Artyom walked ahead, but suddenly stood up, and everyone who was walking behind bumped into in each other's backs, lying on the floor. Man, he was not wearing a protective suit, but only a white robe. Our steps make a cloud. Light gas scattered to the sides, and we saw his face covered with yellow-red burns and transparent blisters. There were the same ones on hands. It died or something. Somebody timidly asked Sasha. And you said false alarm. Artyom said. I walked forward and looked. This man didn't move. Him swollen eyes and bloody lips stuck together. The chest couldn't breathe. He's dead. Dead, Maxim shouted. Quietly. The boss took him by the shoulders. Don't panic. Let's save ourselves. I was also sure that before died for us, and walked around him along the wall. Artyom led us to the doors to the main industrial shop. The siren began to sound quieter, or maybe I just got used to this howl and managed distinguish strange sounds. Behind, it was a hoarse gurgling cough. I turned around. The person we are mistaken for dead stood on all fours. He's still alive, Maxim shouted, and was the first. Ran back. Let's help grab it under his arms. Artyom wanted to stop him, shouting, don't touch the victims. He carried out his instructions, and Maxim acted from sympathy. That man looked bad. He was bleeding from his eyes and ears along with. He coughed out a crimson lump of mucus, and growled terribly. Without using his hands, he jumped up and stood firmly on his feet. Despite serious injuries, the person quickly came to himself and ran towards Maxim. My colleague was superior. The victim's height and weight, but was instantly knocked down. The man opened his sticky eyes, looked Maxim in the face and gritted his teeth. "Get him away from me," Maxim shouted. Burnt hands tore apart. Jumpsuit on our guy's chest. Ugly man scratching his nails. His skin tried to tear the flesh. I wasn't aware of what I was doing. I just wanted to save Max. I came across a heavy one. Fire extinguisher. I took it from the floor, ran up and hit the psycho in the face. No, having felt no pity, he seemed not a man and a crazy beast. But it was already too late. Maxim did not moved and did not breathe. The psycho managed tear his stomach and pull out his intestines. "Out, Max," shouted Sasha. "He is dead. Leave him alone." Artyom said, "Let's leave. Fast." It was true. Maxim lay with open eyes. The life in them has faded, and his skin was covered in places. Burns. Then I realized how important our suits. The air was contaminated, and this white, the gas turned out to be caustic acid. The man who killed Maxim didn't even lost consciousness. I was squirming on the floor trying to get up. I wanted to finish him off, to prevent others from getting hurt. The next blow is a fire extinguisher. Finally brought the psycho out. Building. Only then did I realize that a few minutes ago he was, by a person, a mixture of substances dispersed in the air, turned him into a polo smart maniac. He so easily killed our electrician, tore his stomach with his bare hands, and there was no point in this unthinkable aggression, thoughtless murder. Now I've fallen into a state, acute panic. I wanted to run away as soon as possible. The corridor seemed endless. We reached the end. Artyom opened doors to the workshop. It consisted of 3 levels, middle, upper, and lower. Below where the tanks stood, and distillation machines. There was a complete collapse. Poisonous steam poured out in a column. Something was cracking and it was burning. Sasha approached the railing, looked down and said, "Fuck you, leg." I also looked at one of the tanks on the lower level. Began to look like empty tin can, sharp edges from tearing, dirty yellow liquid sticking out in all directions, flooded the entire lower level, and on the floor lay a couple of dozen bodies. All these people, boiled alive, their skin peeled off, exposed skulls and bones, chemicals mixed with blood. But there were survivors below, somewhat confused and blind. Workers wandered among the corpses and walked through poisonous water. These people were defenseless, suits, and they literally fell apart. Hair fell out, along with flaps of skin, arms, neck and face, covered chemical burns, up to meat. Someone was shouting from above on the level, "Help." The top level consisted of bridges, railings, and stairs, so we saw what's going on there. Guys in yellow overalls and wearing respirators tried to escape from those who did not have time to put on chemical protection. All workers who inhaled this rubbish has turned into creepy evil maniacs. They were overwhelmed by an uncontrollable aggression. They fought and tore at each other, and also attacked those who were not subjected to infection. Before our eyes, one guy in yellow overalls were thrown over railings, and he fell screaming onto Nizhny level, into the poisonous sludge. His mask broke. He tried to get up, but it looked like he broke his leg when falling from 10 meters, and then to it. The blind men ran up and began to beat him until death. No one has noticed us yet. The infected maniacs were busy fighting with each other and with others, survivors. I couldn't think straight from fear. I looked at Sasha and Artyom and didn't understand. Where did Maxim go? And then he remembered that it was torn apart. His body was left lying in the corridor. Now there were only us 3. Artyom knew what to do. He remembered evacuation plan by heart and could pass this path with your eyes closed. The main thing, there was no way to run into the infected workers and not damage your suits. We hid among the racks. Where were the boxes with finished products? Squatted down. Artyom pointed to the doors, another part of the workshop, and explained to us that we'll do. All quiet, calm down, gather yourself and listen, slowly and silently. Noise. We go to those doors. If they see us, we'll run, but it's better to go unnoticed. Understood? Sasha and I nodded. Artyom went first. He weaved, keeping his back bent close to the shelves, so that they don't see him from above. Behind him, I moved, followed by Sasha, in such noise. No one would hear us, but we still tried not to knock their boots. The racks were over, to the door. There were a few meters left open. Space. I was hoping that we would hide in. Smoke, however, us. Noticed one of the crazy workers. Raised a cry, and heavy footsteps pounded on. Iron steps. Other maniacs also saw our trinity, and were already eager for the middle level. They pushed each other going down, up the stairs. Terrible people in torn overalls and dressing gowns, with terrible burns on skin. Some of them have lost teeth and fingers. One madman lost an eye. Another had a broken jaw, but none of them cared about their own wounds. Each of them wanted to be the first to get to us, to attack and kill. Some were infected, armed with anything, stationary, knives, screwdrivers, and pry bars. Artyom ran, and we followed him. We had a chance to be saved because we are maniacs. Raced in an unorganized crowd, and in dump they beat, broke each other's skulls. But one of the maniacs came up with the idea. Throw a heavy wrench at us. Sasha covered us with his massive back. They hit him in the spine and he fell. We didn't have time to lift him up. A second later he was attacked by a crowd of zombies, beat him to death and tore him to pieces. When we closed the doors, I saw that Sasha's head was crushed and a screwdriver was sticking out of his eye. We were in a corridor that could lead us to the plant control point. Held doors, but no one is in them yet. I was torn. I was screaming, unable to control panic. What's wrong with them? This? Artyom also shouted. How do I know? Inhaled psychotropics, make sure. The mask was in place, otherwise we would become like this. Well, I have to leave. I don't understand pharmacology, but I know that any drug will pass everything. Stage of clinical trials may have different effects on people, and here everyone has exactly the same symptoms. Aggression, incredible strength, and fantastic survivability. That's all. An accident, I don't believe it. Maybe it's better to hide, I asked, looking around the doors of office rooms. How many more of these are ahead? Did you see that there is a fire? We will burn, or we'll suffocate and we won't have masks. We'll help. Okay, let's run, agreed. We let go of the doors and rushed through. No one was chasing us in the corridor yet. Artyom stopped me at the fire shield. My hands themselves reached out to what? Heavier. I grabbed a long crowbar and the boss armed himself. Shovel. We still had to walk for a long time along the corridor, past rooms where the insane could hide. Maniacs.
Некоторые из них
Everything was
потеряли
filled there
зубы и
too. Thick
пальцы.
white fog. On
Один
our way we
безумец
did not
лишился
see.
глаза,
No one in
у
chemical
другого была
protection.
сломана
Looks like
челюсть.
just the two of
Но
us
никого из
managed to
них не
escape
волновали
from
собственные
workshops.
раны.
I overtook Artyom
Каждый из
and
них
ran ahead.
желал первым
Panic did
добраться до
not
нас.
allow me to walk calmly, and at the first turn I collided with one from a distraught worker. He looked like the others, eyes and ears. They were bleeding. The skin was peeling off. I didn't have time to swing the crowbar. I just pushed his weapon forward. The infected ran in two, the sharp end and his belly pierced. No pain showed on his face. Iron crowbar in your stomach, maniac. Perceived as an obstacle, the man growled and waved hands, trying to grab me, and suddenly I recognized him. It was Kostya, janitor. Everyone knew him as Quiet Fulov. That but a kind man. He was like that, cheerful, and strangely enough loved. His work, chemical rubbish, and his made me a rabid beast. I moved the handle of the crowbar to the side and pinned the crazy janitor to the wall. Kostya, it's me, Anton, electrician. Remember, I don't know if he understood my words. Did he recognize me? But answered, I'll squeeze it out for you. Eyes, I couldn't believe my ears. Why are we, after all, friends? Just die. Kostya screamed, and his teeth. He was completely crazy. He wanted it so bad. Kill me that he rushed forward, piercing yourself with a crowbar. Did everything just to reach me with his hands. Then Artyom ran up and hit bone in the neck with the edge of a shovel. Blood splashed on the glass of my mask, but even the wide wound on his neck did not stop him. Artyom hit again and almost beheaded. Cleaner. I let go of the crowbar handle. Kostya fell and the horror of his eyes continued. Move, and his mouth opened like a fish's. Dryer. We ran to the main door and found themselves at a security checkpoint. Point with turnstiles. Behind them there were the guards there. There wasn't much smoke, guys. Looked quite normal. They didn't have burns and bleeding, but they both stood in a stupor and swayed slightly. Guys, let us out, Artyom shouted. I also thought that these guys. Okay. The guards came to their senses from the sound. His voices, their faces contorted with anger. They grabbed rubber truncheons and jumped over the turnstiles. They were serious. Prepared guys, and even both under, exposed to gas. My crowbar stuck in the body. Janitor and never wave your fists. Knew how. However, the two of us were unlucky. Artyom. The thugs rushed at him. He tried to block their blow with a shovel, but he was quickly disarmed. Artyom's mask split and he shouted to me, "Run." The head of my brigade understood that can no longer be saved. The guards beat him like a mortal in combat and even beat each other terribly. Crazy scene. I climbed over the turnstiles and ran through the doors and ended up on the street. Ran for a long time and without stopping. Road. My factory was burning behind me. I was alone in the middle of a huge empty space. No one else probably got out. I took it off too early. Mask. Wanting to feel the heady freshness. Air. Acrid smoke entered the lungs. My eyes went dark. The last thing I heard was the sounds of helicopters, and then I woke up already in car intensive care. After the hell I experienced, was too excited. Condition. Doctors injected me sedative and I did not sleep in the hospital. Less than a day. Then she came to my room. A representative of our company is. There was a tall, serious-looking woman in pantsuit and glasses. She asked, "Call her Svetlana." I was sitting on a bed and a woman next to him on a chair with his legs crossed. She recorded the conversation on a tape recorder. "Alexander, you worked for us as an electrician." "Yes," Svetlana asked. "Well, yes," I answered. "Please remember everything that happened during the shift. Very important. You are our only one witness." "The only one." "I just don't." I believed it. The woman nodded. "It was a monstrous disaster. No one survived except you. They worked in the same shift at the plant. At least 70 people. Is it really just me?" "I managed to escape. All my friends died. All the infected died and those on." "Who did they attack?" It was hard for me to remember and talk about what happened, but I understood how much. My testimonies are valuable, so I remembered every minute of your last shift and told everything on the record. Svetlana hid hers well. Emotions. Her face remained calm even when I described the most unpleasant details. After the conversation, she thanked me. "Thank you very much. Helped. Let's hope that ours guidance on everything soon will figure it out." I was sure that my words will confirm the investigation of the bodies studied and slaughtered to the death of people. They will say everything for themselves, but no one thought it necessary to share with me. The results of the investigation were not in the news either. No details in the headlines. The incident was called a fire or factory disaster. In the text, they only talked about the number of victims. Clearly underestimate the number of who died and how. Clarified. Svetlana came to see me at hospital. She was also accompanied by 2 men. Terrible looking. It seems that she wanted make me happy by telling me the amount of compensation, which I am entitled to. But I wanted that. They told me what made the workers plant kill each other, a random mixture of substances, or a specially formulated chemical weapon. The woman listened to my questions and replied, "Your testimony disagrees with reality. What you remember is result of poisoning. People died due to explosion, air contamination, and fire." I was so outraged by her words that I started screaming. "It can't be. There was a meat grinder. People killed." Svetlana frowned and shook head. "It didn't happen. We looked through it. Camera footage of you leaving the plant in alone. Your colleagues did not have time to put on chemical protection." I realized that I was just fooling. How it was full of people in suits. "You mean none of factory workers failed to put on overalls and gas mask?" "This is nonsense. What you remember was nonsense." The woman answered coldly, "I'm not trying to insult you. That's just what they called it. The state you were in after poisoning. Then show me the recording from cameras," I demanded. Svetlana shook head. "It's impossible. You don't have what you need. Access level." One of its maintainers advised me to calm down and reminded me the compensation they will pay me. They just wanted to buy me off and convinced that it was all simple explosion and fire. but no one showed me what. Recorded cameras. I'm sure they have them. Video. I know that my memories are not nonsense and they too. No friends. I suggest you discuss this story in the comments. I'm interested. Who do you trust more? The narrator or company management? How do you think the main character of this story is actually experienced what I was talking about? Or is it was a hallucination due to poisoning by chemical substances? Write your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my new stories.